Matt's still getting logged on, right?
I'm waiting for Lisa.
Okay.
She's got the touch. I don't have on there.
Okay.
I'm about ready to go back to the piece of paper and pad. Fight this thing every month. Gets old.
All right,
You know what I'm gonna do?
thank you.
Have any problem other than.
Mr. Stratton, you ready, sir?
No, but that's all right, you can start it out.
That was
I'm
what was with the
not a
old.
dog in one, oh, Draper's using iPad. What's everybody else gone to?
Gary and
Laptop. I ain't
Charles,
like
y'all
laptop.
good?
Number one,
Ready?
they're heavy.
Think so.
All right. I'm gonna go ahead and call the meeting to order. We got an agenda today, we got a lot to get through, and so we got some time, we got our staff, staff are good, everybody good? All righty, so 2.1, approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All righty. 3.1, discussion, no action. 360, House Bill 464, we got some handouts over there. It's coming around right quick.
Okay.
Or you got an attachment.
Yeah, we have an attachment.
And just get those handouts right there, it'll be fine.
I brought them home.
Yep.
That'd be good, Jimmy.
All righty.
I got stuff.
Everybody up to date, we're good?
Yep, I'm good. Thanks, man.
So, I had this put on the agenda. I'll let them get everybody out.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Here you go.
Thank you. All right. Sweet. Let me turn my mic on, sorry. I had this put on the agenda because I had a phone call from a news outlet on Tuesday afternoon, asking why Keith Kidwell had added, Hillsdale curriculum to only Beaufort County Schools Board, attached to a bill, for stating that it came out of Beaufort County School Board. I then told the news outlet and numerous other phone calls that this was not a board decision, nor has been asked or voted on by the Beaufort County School Board. And Keith Kidwell was speaking in a false matter if he said that. So if some of y'all in the board spoke with Keith Kidwell on the board's behalf, you were incorrect in doing so unless it was voted on or consensus by the board to have done so on the board's behalf. I have fielded multiple calls from staff, numerous legislators in the last 24 to 48 hours, local constituents from my district asking why we were bypassing the local and state process for adoptions of curriculum. I have stated to them both that this board, as the chairman, we had not taken of such action or any action to do so. Again, this action was an incorrect action, and it was not acceptable by the board as a board member. So I wanted to address it because it caused pretty much a firestorm inside the legislature. Not only the legislature, but our local DPI, not local DPI, but inside of the DPI. And it has also caused a big firestorm within our staff. Our staff are upset that we had done something and tried to circumvent the adoption of a curriculum. I've asked Lisa to attach, there's two board policies on your board docs and you got a handout. Policy 2100, it's there for you to read. It's pretty self-explanatory. And policy 2122 for us to go over if anybody has any questions or anything going on and for this discussion. But I have had conversations with Tim Moore's office, Representative Bell's office, and I have talked to Kidwell this morning. So just for your knowledge, it got pulled from the floor yesterday afternoon and off of the bill. So when they realized that it was not a board decision. So, all right.
Can I comment?
Yep.
I'm not going to speak for, yeah, I received a lot of phone calls. I got a phone call from the General Assembly. There's several of us that have friends in the General Assembly too. I got a call from Keith, but I got calls from other people too, asking me directly, is this really what you want to do, Terry? And I told them I had not had a discussion about this. It had not been in front of our board. Our board had not taken a vote on it. And nobody was authorized to speak on my behalf but somebody named Terry Williams, me. And I made it very clear to them where I stood on this, very clear. And I want to know exactly how this happened. I want to know who contacted the state representative and asked them to put this bill through, or this amendment to a bill for us on our behalf when that is not true. Everybody from this end of the board to all the way over there to our finance person. Your personal issues are not of my concern. But when you go outside of this room and start representing me as a board member when I haven't told you to, I have a problem with that. And I have a big problem with that. So I'm not speaking toward the board people that were upset in Raleigh, because they were. I'm letting you know I was upset. I'm only speaking for me. I was highly offended by this. And I want to make sure everybody is clear when we leave here today. If you got something to say, you say it for yourself. If you think that there's something you need to say for me, you better come to me and you better check on that before you do. Because I'm not going to put up with this kind of behavior anymore.
Well,
I'm not going to have people in Raleigh calling me, blindsiding me with things that I don't even know about. Go ahead.
I do know that when I speak as,
You're different.
no, I'm not different. I'm one of 9. But when I speak, you know, I wear 2 hats, and my hat is a school board member and chairman, and then my other hat is an employee of a power company. When I speak as T.W. Allen, Bourbon County School Board, I'm speaking on the school board's behalf when I say that. But when I speak as T.W. Allen, I am speaking as me, as a representative, calling my representative in Raleigh, not as
And you can do that.
a school board member. That's correct. You can do that. But not when I say T.W. Allen, school board member, Bourbon County Schools. That's where you get in a mess.
I do want to say, when I contacted Representative Kidwell, of course, I guess he was in session because I don't really keep up with when they're in and when they're out. He was great. He called me back within 30 minutes. I mean, he found time. He called me right back. He answered my questions, and I made it very clear to him that this was not a full board decision. And he indicated to me that 2 board members had contacted him, and that's where it came from. And I was not one of the 2. And he didn't tell me the 2, and I didn't ask him. I just knew it wasn't me. But
TW, let me address this if I can. I was contacted. I'm familiar with the Hillsdale curriculum because of I have kids. I have grandkids. I was contacted by someone who said that in order to expedite the process to get the DPI standards reviewed or possibly waived, that Keith needs some information about Hillsdale curriculum, and I provided that to him. Now, I understood at that time that the DPI review of the social studies curriculum could be potentially a lengthy process, and we've been looking at the social studies curriculum, and it was put on hold. I mean, it's going nowhere. My understanding of it is that this was necessary in order to be able to get it in the consideration of the other vendors for the social study curriculum. Now, I was contacted by somebody outside the board who asked me to send some information to Keith, and I did, on the Hillsdale curriculum. I did not represent that this was a board action or anything like that. It was the fact that we needed to move forward with this social studies curriculum. With this review, we didn't need to just let it die, and that there might potentially be a holdup because of the fact that they had not formally gone through the review procedure with DPI about approved curriculums. Although we understand that it is taught in some North Carolina schools, and I did convey that it is taught in 3 other North Carolina schools. So I did send the information to Keith. I did not represent that it was board action in any way, but we were just, I think the intent was that we not be held up from considering it along with the other finalists in the Social Studies Review Committee.
Gary, did you not feel at any time, though, that would have been something you should have run by Dr. Parker or TW, that you were sending this information for consideration?
We were trying, at that point in time, the social studies curriculum study had just dropped through the floor.
But did
there
you
was no
have a discussion
consideration.
with Dr. Parker about it? Because I feel like if you're going to ask for any kind of curriculum, be it social studies or anything, that your first plan of action would be to speak with the director of our curriculum department.
Well, like I
Because
say,
Keith represented it a little different in
Keith
that it came from the
he's
board.
represented it differently the way that I gave it to him.
So, I'll tell you my discussion with Keith today, and it was straight up, and I said, I had 3 committee members that came out of that committee, and that's why they called me directly, because he represented it as a board action that was sent to them by 2 board members. And then, and I said, Keith, I'm not saying I'm for Hillsdale, and I'm not saying I'm against Hillsdale. I'm saying to him this, and it's the exact words to him that I said, you are doing the same thing that DPI is doing by just saying Hillsdale. You know, there could be some other great curriculums other that are not DPI approved out there, just like Hillsdale, that could be great for everybody.
Right.
And I said, when you wrote Hillsdale, that threw the legislatures in a tailspin because you're boxing us in just like DPI does. And then I said back to Keith, I said, even though you may do a, put it on a resolution or whatever he had here, or addendum, who funds, if DPI doesn't approve, even though Keith Kidwell gets approved on a bill, and it goes to DPI, no, not DPI, it gets approved on a bill that we can do it, it still doesn't push the funding from DPI that they will even fund any part or any method of any kind of curriculum, whether it's Hillsdale or Gary Carter's curriculum. DPI still has the right to not fund that curriculum. And and he did not know that today. So he did not know that part of the process. So him and I had a very good, productive conversation this morning. But I asked him in the future, you know, if he would just pick up the phone, there was a firestorm out of Raleigh coming towards Beaufort County yesterday. And I was up to at least 6 or 7 legislators, 4 or 5 news outlets, and numerous staff members of Beaufort County Schools. You know, I respect the legislators in Raleigh. They do what they do. They legislate. I don't have a lot of respect for a lot of news outlets because we all know what that is. It's an opinion. But I respect and honor a lot of our opinions of our staff and our principals, because I do not have a 4-year education degree. And when it bothered me because they felt like we had circumvented them in the process. That bothered me more than the legislators that called.
The intent was to bring it back into the consideration process with the other vendors that are out there that are, as far as we know, you know, the decision by the curriculum council brought us one vendor that we weren't particularly crazy about. The public wasn't particularly crazy about it. And we had hoped to get a re-review of the finalists, and also include in that review any other appropriate vendor.
Well,
If I may,
good.
you mentioned several times, Gary, and I mean, please, I mean, it's gonna be hard for you not to take offense to this, but you mentioned several times we. This is we, right here, right? I don't know who we is when you mentioned that, right? But it was not we. This is the we should be dealing with, right? I mean, I'm sorry, guys. I get it. I talk to a lot of community members as well. I bring it back to we. I don't go off and rogue and mention it to Keith Goodwell or anybody else. That's acting on your own. And that behavior cannot go on. I'm sorry. Because I'm not going to be politically correct like Terry Williams was.
Why are you looking over here at me?
Because I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Since the election, there's been 3 members come onto this board. We didn't have any of these issues over the last 6 years. None.
And we're trying to do the right thing.
You're not doing the right
I'm
thing.
representing
You're causing
2,000
trouble.
people that put me in this office,
Right.
and I'm trying to do the right thing.
But the thing is you're not doing the right thing. You're causing extra work by doing what you call the right thing. Because you're causing trouble. I'm sorry, guys. I mean, I've sat back long enough. I'm getting ready to open up about
You're
it.
speaking out of turn.
No, I'm not.
He's got the floor.
I've got the floor right now. You're actually speaking out of turn,
I gave him the floor. He has the floor.
all right? I mean, I'm sorry, guys. I mean, no disrespect. I really have no disrespect for anybody. But there's a process to follow. Going off and mentioning stuff to Keith Kidwell without representing this board totally is a wrong path. It causes trouble. It caused us hours of work, recon. And I mean, I'm sorry. I personally have a degree, and that's wasted time. I don't have time for that crap. I'm sorry, I do not. And I've just about had it.
Mr.
I'm
Chairman,
done.
I recognize
It
Charles.
appears to
That's
me that he's probably made some assumptions that just weren't right. I don't think anybody meant to lead him that way. It was just a misunderstanding here mostly, I think.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir, Don.
Yes, sir. What I wanted to say was, I know a little something about this. What I know about it is that someone contacted Keith regarding the Hillsdale curriculum. That was not me. And it was asked of Gary if he could provide some information to give them some better information about the Hillsdale curriculum, because we understand that it's a good curriculum and it's working well in other states. And that's all I know about it. And then now all this. Gary was providing information that he thought was requested from Keith, and I'm sure that's what he thought, that's what I thought. So this is kind of surprising to me about this conversation today. And I agree with Gary. I think he was, and I heard him mention it, that if he can get that taken care of, then he would bring it back for your approval. But we didn't realize that that had to have, or Gary didn't, board approval for him to give information to Keith at Keith's request.
Well, put yourself in my shoes. I'm sitting at my desk on Tuesday afternoon at X o'clock. I don't know, it was in the afternoon. I get a phone call from a news outlet out of the blue that we're asking for this. The next phone call was another news outlet, 2 within 10 minutes. The third phone call was a legislator out of Raleigh that was in the committee meeting, stating that it was a board decision of Beaufort County School Board. And I get it,
Yeah.
but I'm shutting it down as I'm getting these calls. Okay, and then, so Tuesday until probably 9 p.m., I fielded this. And then yesterday and evening, I fielded a ton. But you can see where I'm coming from.
I do, yeah.
That we have got to, this is, Terry made a good point. This is the we. The 9 of us, my vote means no more than Terry's or yours or y'all's too.
I agree.
And we're all equal. I try to keep, as chairman, y'all 100% informed when we meet with, when we met with Frankie Waters over the stuff. I told y'all that we were meeting with Frankie Waters over. I tell y'all with what we're doing, we try to keep y'all 100% informed. But when I get a phone call from a news outlet, out of the blue, that number one, I did a Dr. Cheeseman thing. I took 10 seconds. I paused. I counted to 10 because you got him on the other end of the phone. And at that moment, I am representing the 9. Okay? At that moment, he's calling me as the chairman and representing the 9. So as the 9, as representing of the 9, I said this was not a board decision. Has not been brought before the board. And Keith Kidwell, if he spoke of that way, spoke out of turn. And that's how I handled it. Because it was not a board decision, and it was not handled inside the 9. Now, if it would have been handled any other way inside the 9, when we went through COVID, we had multiple weeks of 5-4 votes of masks. It was handled in here, out of here, as it's the board's will to be out of mask or in mask. That's just my option.
Mr. Chairman, wouldn't the chairman or the superintendent, I guess, be the only one that could authorize that? I think I'm kind of surprised that it came across as a board decision.
I am too, because, and I'll add to something I said before, I spoke with Keith at our convention, and Keith approached me and told me this is what he was doing. And my take on that was, well, cool, Keith, it gives us more options. But I don't think anybody alluded to the fact that the board had said any of this.
And it could, and it's probably 100%. He took it 100% out of context.
That's the way I see it.
But when the committee members inside of the legislature,
Understand?
and I had 4 on one side and 1 telling me on the other. So I got 4 telling me the same story and 1 not saying nobody said anything differently. But you see what I'm saying.
Sure.
Go ahead, Mr. Jerry.
The information that I sent to Keith were links off of the Hillsdale K-12 website. And
But
he
he's not
wanted to
able to do
know,
that himself. I'm just
Hold on.
surprised.
Let me finish.
Yeah.
Sorry.
so he wanted information on the Hillsdale K-12 curriculum, and he wanted to know what schools in North Carolina use the curriculum. And that was also a link inside their website. And that's the only thing I said to him. I did not have a conversation with him at all.
And I haven't looked at Hillsdale. I'm sorry. I got 10,000 things going on at work, and if it's not on the board of doctors, something we need to investigate. I know, you've had that conversation before. But is there any public schools, school systems that are using it? And that way, don't send them to me. Send them to the board. The 9. I'm used to saying send to me at work, so I apologize for that. But how about if you don't mind, send them to the 9, if we don't mind.
And
I think she was next.
I just want to support the position that you were put in, unfortunately, because I was chairman through COVID, which was not the best of times to be chairman. And the press was calling me constantly or showing up at the store insisting on quotes. But I knew not only based on the policy, but based on the we, as Draper said, that I was not going to ever speak on behalf of this board unless I was instructed to do so. And the press gets a little antsy about that because they want a story, they want to sell newspapers, they want to be on the news. And I would continue to decline for comment, and then I would call Matthew and try to figure out what's the best comment that we can do. I exhausted this poor board with what they wanted to do and how they wanted it done. So if nothing else, as a lesson, so many things that we say when we leave this room, and we say them to our friends or our family, they become the gospel as though they came from this board. And they didn't. They came from your heart, your mind, your philosophy. So you have to be extremely careful, because our missteps end up in T.W. Terry and Matthew's laps. Whether Keith intended that to happen is irrelevant now, because it happened. And we put them in a very bad situation that they had to try to get out of, because legislators in Raleigh thought we'd lost our minds allowing, and I'm also a little surprised, as important as this bill is, that it could have failed just based on that addendum he put in there. And this needs to pass for Washington and Beaufort County. So if nothing else, let this please be a lesson. I don't speak for anybody but me when it comes to an opinion, but I definitely would never speak on behalf of the board or give up information unless I had the blessing of all of you.
Oh, Tom, sorry.
TW, I was just going to say, you mentioned Hillsdale, and we're talking about Hillsdale. And when I made the comment that we want to do the right thing, Hillsdale has a lot of success in student success, and that's what we were looking at. 8 of our 13 schools are failing grade-wise, and Hillsdale is a successful school. And that's what I say when I said that we're about success. We're trying to do the right thing. And I wanted to point that out. Why I said that is because we were looking at a curriculum where Gary was with Keith that he thought was going to be a great curriculum that we could propose here and take a look at. So, especially since there's no social studies curriculum now that anyone's considering. So that's all I have to say.
And I appreciate it, but we just need to make sure we stay as legal and as good as we can as far as board policies. And I'm sorry that somebody in Raleigh took the message completely out of context, completely.
One last thing. Anything that I did or said, I did not mean in respect to the board or to Norris or anything like that. The one thing that has, we've had comments, and probably other people have fielded comments too, about what happened to the curriculum recommendation for social studies. And all we've been able to tell them was that it was pulled for consideration. We want to try to get that process restarted by looking at potentially the finalist again, but not just the finalists, but if there are other vendors out there. I'm just saying other vendors out there. I'm not saying Hillsdale, but if there are other vendors out there, we need to get them considered. And we need to move ahead with this social studies curriculum because it is important to us.
Yeah.
But I did not do anything to disrespect this board, or Dr. Cheeseman, or Dr. Parker.
Oh, I appreciate that. And one of the reasons that it is still paused was paused, and other things going on is we were bunching up against budget season and other items going on, and so of course we got to get all this done, and it's all in a timely manner. But I didn't. And plus, we give our social studies team a little time to regroup. Let's get our team back together and let's start on the process. So,
and I think that potentially, they need some help from us about what direction. I mean, if they need to be considering, public comments more, or if they need to be considering other vendors, they need some direction from us other than just. Let's just drop it from the agenda for us.
okay, I agree. Anybody
Just
you guys said, you gave myself.
Gary, what the statement that you just made would have asked you, there's nowhere in the world that you would not have known that maybe I should contact the director, find out, let him know that maybe we should go this direction and not try to just do it. I mean, that's not a team effort in the first place. And I think that this, as Carolyn just stated, this should be the best lesson to this board as anything that we've ever had. Because I know, I too receive calls from everywhere. I only received one call from Beaufort County. All these calls came from other counties.
Okay.
Other counties, and see, that's really embarrassing to me. You know, and they could not believe that we had a school board that didn't have any more knowledge than this. And I think it's awful. I'm sorry, I just think it's awful. And you know what it is? I'm gonna tell you how I feel about it. I feel like it's being political. And I feel like that we don't need to be shooting out political stuff when we're here trying to take care of our staff and our students. I think it's awful. And I'm sorry. I hope it's a lesson for you. And now, if I'm in order, Mr. Chairman, can I make a motion?
What's that?
I'd like to move that this board, no member on this board send any issue to any legislator or anybody in Raleigh without the full board having knowledge of it. Can I get a second?
Yeah, I think, I mean, that's already in our policy.
It's on
but-
there.
Well, evidently, that somebody don't know what the policy is.
Yeah.
So does any, all right, I got a motion and a second on the floor to, that any policy, that gets sent to Raleigh or any information gets sent to Raleigh and the board should be approved by this board. Is that correct, Ms.?
That's good enough.
But technically, that is policy
I know.
2100.
I was gonna say, put it in the
Hang on.
bottom of it, I
It
hope
don't
you
go.
already know
It don't
that.
go. I'm saying it doesn't go there.
I'll be the
That's the
first.
policy.
Okay.
All right, anybody got anything else?
Yeah, I got something else when you get through. You wanna take that vote?
Yeah, I'm going to take the vote. All in favor, say aye. All opposed?
I'm not opposed, because I quite understand.
Yeah, they're not agreeing to anything that we shouldn't already be doing or done.
It sounds like that's a policy. And I can't see where Gary did anything to really break that policy. I'm having trouble seeing that anyway. It just seems to me to be a big misunderstanding about how we got here.
I agree with that.
Well, I disagree to a certain extent. It's mutual respect of the office of chair and vice chair and superintendent. I feel like if he'll feel that strong about doing something like that, you should at least pick up the phone and call these gentlemen and tell them what you want to do. Get their blessing. Don't blindside them like they got caught this week. That's why you got a chair and a vice chair. Let them be the ones to speak for us.
All right, you got,
And just for the record, when they weren't calling you, that's because the other one was calling me.
okay.
And Mr. Chair, I got one more
All right,
thing.
you ain't spoken yet. Go ahead, Mike.
The executive director of the School Board Association also called me about it. Her lobbyist hit her with it yesterday evening about 5:30.
Yep.
What's going on? She said, of all counties, I didn't expect nothing like this out of BOCO County. That's what she said. So, I get an email from her today. She said, I think this is a prime example that your board needs to go back and look at your master board training.
Okay.
And I don't think we've had master board training in what, 15 or more years?
Before they were finishing it up when I
Not since
came
I've been
here.
on board.
And
Well,
12 years
it's-
ago.
it's-
Lisa, how does that
No,
work?
it's been
Okay.
back before then. I just forwarded the schedule.
All right,
So, you know, they go.
that would be a good idea to get everybody under a master board training.
Quite a commitment for everybody to do, but we've done it before.
Okay, let's get information, let's get it out here to us and see what's
Okay.
going on.
All right.
All right, Terry, you've got one last time.
Yeah, I just want to finish up with one statement to kind of put us back on the right footing, hopefully. And that is that, and this is something that because I know Mr. Leary's recording it, and I'm glad he is. That way I can say he's got it on camera, what I said or whatever. Is you have my permission to carry this message forward. And that is, we have got to start being a little more positive in our discussions with people outside the board. When I'm, in just general discussions. Because it's being reported in the media over and over, and I've read it over and over until I just can't take it anymore. And so we need to start trying to correct some of this behavior. And that is, and I'm not directing it at, well, I am directing it at the three, but not in a negative way. It just happens to be, you just happen to be the three new guys. No fault of your own. But it's constantly being said that we only have 3 good board members on this board. And I'm quite sure, now I'm not one of them that they're talking about, but I'm just telling you, there are more than 3 good board members on this board. Everybody I'm looking at, including Charles and Gary and Donald and all of us were elected by people in our district. They have faith in us. I've got a gentleman sitting to my left that I think is probably about in his 10th term, 9th. I know you're in your 30 years.
This is year 39.
So he's in his 10th term. Miss Booth is in several. So, and I'm in my 4th. We've been elected multiple times. So people do not think of us as bad people out there apparently because they keep sending us back here. So there's more than 3 good board members on this board. And Donald, I know you are scheduled, I believe, now I could be wrong, but I was told, you're scheduled to be at a meeting tonight to make a report on the school board? Or something thereabout. I mean, I might not have it worded right. And that's okay.
Not to my knowledge.
Oh, well, I've got it in writing right here. I printed it and it says Donald Shreve will report from the school board tonight at the new Beaufort County Conservative Club. And I don't care if you do. I think that's
that's what we're talking about
Yeah.
here.
Uh-huh.
I know nothing about that.
You're on here.
Yeah,
And
and
that's okay. I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm saying when you're there, if you do go, please explain to them that there are some good board members here. If you'll start teaching that story there, or spread it, I'll spread it in my direction that y'all are good board. We'll spread it all over. And let's try to get back to where we are a board that people do believe in us because.
Terry, I totally agree with you
Yeah, that's
on
all I'm
that.
saying.
But Terry, we can't help that some of the community are saying we're good board members. We can't help that.
I didn't say you could, but I'm just saying you could say, but there are additional good, I'm not saying you have to say anything. I'm just saying the board as a whole. There's more good board members than 3 people. And
I'm going to keep my luster as long as I can.
What?
I'm keeping my luster as long as I can.
All right.
You can only use the new
Are
card.
you good, Ted?
I'm good.
All right,
Let's just
Gary.
all try to get along.
Gary.
I think our common interest should be
Yeah.
is getting this social studies curriculum study back on track so that we can see any appropriate vendors and so that we can make a decision. We can consider public opinion of those things, but our common goal for all of us here should be getting that social studies curriculum back on track in some form. Now, if it needs to be after the budget and all that stuff, we thought there was I thought that there was a concern about getting this done as quickly as possible, but our concern should be that we have the appropriate vendors and the appropriate curriculum for our students.
I agree. We got to do. Our board should be doing what's the best thing for our students to get our students educated and out to society to be a wealthful, useful part of society and working member of society.
I just want to add, and this is definitely not directed at any one person but the whole board. Going forward, I would like to request that presentations done by anybody in the community be respectful. And we've had some that have been very informative, which is always good, and we have had some that have been disrespectful to our teachers, to our directors, to our students. And as a board, our job is to support all those people. We support our teachers, we support our students, we support our staff. They're working every day we're not working every day, we're working as individuals because we were elected to represent our communities. And as our new board members also know, you really represent everybody, not just your district, but everybody. So as a board, I want to see us working together. It's okay, as TW said, to have a 5-4 vote on things. It's okay, but we learn from each other. We learn from each other, we grow as board members, but I want to make sure that presentations done, whether it's done by our faculty members for curriculum adoption, whether it's done by community members, that they be respectful. And when they
speak, don't blow your food all over everything if you've got your mouth full. As your mama would say, don't talk with your mouth full.
Clean it up yourself.
That's right. So we're going to go to 4.1, budget session.